Tonight's program is Ralph McConnell, star of stage, screen, and radio activity. It's a clear night, but what am I going to observe? Take it away, Ralph.
Yeah, have y'all ever been in this situation where, hey, it's clear outside, but what am I going to look at? Am I going to just do something that I've always done, or something new, or what? I have, and I've sat, and sometimes you end up just staying inside, not doing anything. So don't do that. Okay. Do that. Have you ever thought about one of the Astronomical League observing programs? Because there's a lot of them, they're good. They give you something to work at. So, first of all, who is Astronomical League? If you're a member of the Astronomy Club here, you're a member of the Astronomical League. So the league is made up of about 300 local observatory or local clubs around the U.S. There's just over right at 21,000 members worldwide. The objective is to get amateur astronomy out, to increase the interest in amateur astronomy. They're dark sky advocates. They facilitate communication between amateur astronomy groups. We have a Reflector magazine that once you join the club, you'll start getting the Reflector magazine. I picked these two here because if you look at the photos on them, they were done by one of our members, AstroMap. They have an online store which, if you get into the observing programs, some of the manuals you can get online or off of their store. They're not that expensive, and they give you a lot of good information. Lost sound. Was it because where I was standing, maybe? You have it now? Can you hear me?
Oh, it's hard to hear you using the microphone on the machine.
Yeah.
We might have just, I don't know. Ooh. Let's see what's happening here. You guys hear us at all? Guess not.
How will we know? No, we can't hear it.
It's, yeah, I think maybe the best thing to do is leave and come back.
Things are.
You may have to go into your setup and set up the microphone.
Shouldn't have to. It was working fine. Why would it?
He asked me the other day.
I think it's a whereby
New
thing.
Sunspot group.
I'm
Got
gonna
so much
leave
out, I guess, Tuesday.
and then go back in.
Oh my gosh, the sun had so many interesting problems. Oh man, the sunspot, it was unbelievable. And I texted him back, I said, man, that is something else. I hadn't heard back from him. But it's still dealing with the 3-hour time difference.
So he sees him in the
He knows it's late when he's getting home from work. It's
So Dale says.
it's late.
All right, guys, can you hear us now?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Okay, so let me share out again. Okay, seeing the PowerPoint now?
No.
Do you need to click on that allow?
Yeah.
Brother, I'll be more than happy to let you come up here and drive this
Okay,
thing.
go down to where it says allow, block, etc. Try allow and see what happens. You are sharing another application window, which is what you want to do.
You guys seeing it now?
We got
No.
Well, that was my 2 cents. I'm sorry.
I think Zoom works with it.
Is this not Zoom?
No, this is, this is whereby. It's,
Oh, the
it's-
whereby, okay.
It's,
I don't use a PC.
right, the ham radio club uses Zoom. It works,
On
it's really
Mac.
slick.
iMac and also my MacBook Pro, which is 12 years old.
Browser's having trouble accessing the screen. Okay. All right, can you guys see the screen now?
Yes, a bit.
All right, give me a second. All right, what about now? You guys seeing the presentation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good job.
Good thing you're doing this, not me. Okay, so they have an online store. They also have observing programs, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So, why is that still there? Stop sharing.
Well, just
Bigger on the screen.
run the mouse up there to that right-hand box. Hang on, let me do it real quick. See if I can really screw this up. That should get
There.
All right.
Okay, let's go back. Nope. Okay, so why do the observing programs? One thing, it helps you develop new observing skills. It introduces you to new objects, because if you have never looked at, let's say, planetary nebulas, if you do the planetary nebula program, you'll be looking at a bunch of planetary nebulas, because they're all pretty well themed about certain types of objects, and they give you a progression through those, and you're looking at objects all through the sky. So with the logging, you learn to take notes better. The description that they ask you, they want you to describe the object, what you're seeing in the telescope. It develops your skills of observing, sketching, which we had our program last month that Chris did on sketching. It really helps you look at more of the detail, because you're trying to sketch and put in the detail that you're seeing, and you learn to look more, look closely. Introduces you to new aspects of astronomy, because you may never think about looking at double stars. If you do the double star program, you're going to look at a lot of double stars, and you're going to learn how to log those and how to do the how to log them. Okay, it introduces you to new aspects of astronomy, sparks new interest, and it gives you a greater understanding of the science behind our hobby. The observing certificates, if you do the observing programs, you'll get a certificate and a pen, and we'll see some of those in just a minute. Observing awards would be like for the master programs, which are advanced more past the program. So when you do some of the programs, then you can get master certificates and pens. Special observing awards, 2017 eclipse. If we had thought about it and we had looked, we could have, everybody that saw it could have gotten a pen and a certificate for seeing the 2017 eclipse. The planetary conjunction we had 2 years ago, we've got a pen there. Next year, probably there will be a pen for the annular eclipse. In 2024, there'll probably be a pin for the 2024 total eclipse. The observing challenges, anybody that's done the Galaxy Challenge here recently, that's what that is, and you get a certificate for it. There's also NASA certificates for NASA challenges, and they're downloadable certificates. If you saw the 2017 eclipse, you can go online, you can actually download that, put your name on it, and tell where you saw it, and you can frame it and put it on your wall. So when you finish a program, you get a nice letter from the coordinator and congratulating you on finishing. You get a nice pin, which these I think are fairly nice little lapel pins. Something you can, there are people that put them on hats, vests, jackets, or you can just put on your wall.
Lanyards.
Lanyards, true. You get a nice certificate. You get your name in the next quarter Reflector magazine. Each quarter there's like 2 pages here of all the observing programs, and they list everybody that has gotten their certificates in that last quarter. The Galaxy Challenge, you get a certificate like that, which is frameable, or you can download these. Okay, so how do I find a program? Go on the Astronomical League website, you go to the Observe, and you can get an alphabetical listing. Is the easiest way to do it. So you can find that either in the drop down or you can pick it here, and you get this, which is an alphabetical list of all the programs that are available. So in that list, okay, I have boxed in different things. So the programs are the ones that are not in the boxes. You have some that are black that are for the Southern Hemisphere, which we don't have to worry about. So you have observing awards, those we'll talk about in a little bit. Those are the higher awards. You have the AL challenges in the green. That's the Galaxy Challenge, and right now the Globular Cluster Challenge. You have special observing awards that we'll go over later. And you have the NASA Challenge. So all these other ones in here are the different programs. Another thing you can do is you say, okay, I only have binoculars, so what programs can I do that if I just have binoculars? So you can go back to the list and you can download the list by what equipment is needed. Or you can go to the list, and another category is, okay, I'm just starting, so where do I start? So you can list the programs by the level, your observing level, and that's here or here on the drop down. There's one other way you can do it is in a grid form, and they give you a lot more details in that. I don't know if you'd use it or not, but anyway, that's another way you can look at the program. So a typical observing program, I picked the Messier program because it is the most popular of all the programs, and it's been around probably longer than any of them because some of the old guys, they were in the late 60s, I think is when you got your pen, 68, 69, somewhere around in
And
there.
they still keep a record of it,
Yeah,
so you're there
it's in
permanently.
there with your name. So if you go to the alphabetical list and you pick on Messier, then this will come up. And what it does, it gives you an introduction. It shows you who the coordinator is, how to get a hold of them. In this case, it's a historical thing, so they give you just a little bit of history about Messier, and then it goes through the rules and regulations of this is what you have to do. Pay very close attention to that, and I'll show you in a minute why. At the end, they say, okay, when you're done, then you can send your information to the coordinator. It tells you how you can do it. Or in some cases, like the Messier program, you can actually send it to David. You can send it to one of the officers of the club. They can approve your observing logs and everything, and then send the coordinator and say that Ralph finished it. In fact, Richard checked mine and sent the stuff in, and in a few months I got my pen and everything. The last thing is here, and this gives you either a downloadable list of what you want to look for. It comes in either a printable PDF, there's Excel files. Some of them you can't even download. Some of them you have to go back to the website and look at it on the website. But there are a lot of different programs, different levels, like the Messier. You can start, if you find 70 objects, you can send your logbook in or have them check it, and you'll get a certificate. Once you find all 110, then you send your information in and you get the certificate and the pen. And there's a lot of the programs in there that are set up in different levels. Meteorite program or meteor program, it's like 6 levels, and that's depending on the hours that you spend outside looking for meteors. Pay close attention to these little boxes. We'll talk about those in just a second, because they can give you some real quick, good information. Okay, so the list for the program, this is the list of the Messier objects. If you have an old list, if you have an old observing manual, you'll not find M102, but M102 is in the new list. They finally said it is a true object, and they put it in the Messier list. Find 102. And if you don't know the history behind 102, if you look online, I think my program about 102 is still on there. And it's a really neat history of how 102, the history behind 102 and what happened, and why people say it's not. It's really 101, and it's not. It is not. That's my opinion. Okay, quick reference boxes. They added these a few years ago. Before that, if you want to find out what you could or could not do, you had to go through and read all the program. Now they have the quick reference boxes, so you can real quickly go in and look at the reference, and you can tell exactly what you need. So in the Messier, it's telescope for sure, but you have to star hop. You cannot use any kind of aid. You can't use a go-to. You can't use setting circles. You can't use a cell phone. Anything that helps you find that object other than star hopping, like the program month before last, that we went over how to find it. It is visual. It is not imaging. Now, brings up a good point. A lot of the programs now, they have actually gone back and said, okay, we want you to look at these objects. Like, okay, we're in the middle of the globular cluster challenge. You can, in the programs now, you can use the go-to telescope to find the globular clusters. And if you're an imager, you can image those. They suggest that you still do a sketch and still do all the logging of what you saw and everything, but you can image those and turn your images in. If you star hop to the objects, let's say like the Herschel 400, and Chris, when he was here the other day, he is finishing up his Herschel 400 after a few years. He has star hopped to every one of them. So when he gets his certificate, it's going to say on there that he star hopped, or he did not use, I don't know how the wording is. When I turned mine in, I have used the telescope and a go-to on mine and imaged all 400. And so when I get my certificate, it's going to say that it's an imaged certificate. So that's what that is. But it also breaks it down into your levels and just gives you other information. It tells you what is required in your logbook, and then it tells you what you have to have when you submit it to whoever checks your logbook. I put this in because this is very important. Read the rules, because in this case it's the globular cluster. And there's one little note down here that to do the program, they want you to look at that globular cluster, and they want you to determine what the Shapley-Sawyer concentration class is. Well, what is that? I don't know what that is. And the reason I tell you this is because Chris, again, has gone through all the globular clusters. He turned his logbooks in. They rejected it because he did not do this. And he said, what do I have to do? And the guy says, do it over.
Oh, wow.
Well, I wouldn't do it over, but, so, if you're in the globular cluster challenge now, all the globular clusters that we're looking at in the challenge are in this program. If you do this, you can use those not only for the challenge, but you can go ahead and continue and find the rest of the globular clusters that are in that program and get your pin. So, when you get into something like this, well, what is this? I don't know. Well, real quick search online, Wikipedia has it. Or you can get the globular cluster book, and in that book, it gives you the classifications, which right there. So it tells you how to do it. So be sure to do things like that. So the manuals are good. They're not that expensive. That Messier manual right there is older than a lot of the people in this room. There are some that are downloadable. When you go like to the Stellar Evolution, you'll see down there that you can download the manual PDF on your computer and read it. And that's a neat little program there, because what they're doing is saying, okay, this is how a star evolves, and what they do is say, okay, for this part of the evolution, look at this star, look at this nebula, and this is what's happening in this part of the life of the star. The open cluster, that is downloadable. That's another program that they want you to classify the concentration of the open cluster. So that's another little research. If you have the manual or if you download this, it gives you that information. The Astronomical League also has a lot of YouTube. When they pass their 75th anniversary, year of the 75th anniversary, they went out to a bunch of the coordinators or the people that created the programs, and they said, hey, let's do a YouTube. So they get the coordinator or the program developer to come on and just give a little YouTube. Okay, this is why I did the program, this is what it's all about, this is what you do, this is what you're looking for. So there's a lot of the YouTubes that are pretty neat. If you look on the Observe program website, the page, there's a lot of other good information in there, things that you can look. There's just ways to describe. They give you ideas on how to describe an object, what to look for. There's one they want you to give the seeing and transparency, and that's always been a problem for me. So there's a page on there that you look and they say, okay, this is the way you grade your seeing, this is the way you grade your transparency. And so that's a good page to look at. There's also independent people out there, like I think that's the 10-Minute Astronomer. He has a bunch of AL program manuals that you can download, and all it is just a logbook basically, and it has all the objects and it has all the information you need. So all you have to do is just fill it out and you have your logbook. Also, this is the Observing Division Director, and there's a link on there for him. He is associated with some school system in Texas and an observatory out there, but he does this page here, What's Up Doc, and this gives a monthly list of all the different programs, observing programs, and what object is up that month. So you can, if you're doing the Messier program, you can go to that, and it says, okay, this, and this object are up this month. It just gives a real quick reference. And one thing I missed on the Messier program, you do not have to start at number 1. You can start anywhere in there. So you can start right now, which as Sagittarius is coming up, is a great time to start the Messier program, because you have a whole bunch of objects in that area that once you get started, you can log a whole bunch of objects real quick, and then it slows down, and then it comes back again in May with a bunch more galaxies and all. Okay, so I'm a novice. I'm just learning. Where do I start? Okay, they have these programs. Sorry. Those programs there are, you can see their age group. The youth program is really good for youth because it doesn't tie you down to one specific program. It gives you a good overview of this is what's happening in the sky, this is what's going on, and how it works. But it also allows the young person to go into like the Messier program. Okay, you like the Messier program, here, choose 5 objects out of the Messier program, log those 5 objects, and you're good on this. Now go to the double stars, log 5 double stars, and it gives them a good overview of a lot of different things. This program here, and I wish the 2 ladies that were at Battling Canyon were here tonight, this is a good thing for people that are older, above age 11. I think that should be age 17, I'm sorry, and older, beyond Polaris. This was created by 3 ladies out in Houston that joined the club out there, and they looked and they said, there's not a program for us. We want to learn astronomy, but we don't know where to start. So the coordinator of one of the programs just happened to be in that club, and he said, well, why don't you write a program? Okay, well, and they said, they talked to each other, and they said, well, yeah, let's do that. So they worked for a year, and they wrote that program. And they said, okay, here's one for people that are a little bit older, and it gives you good basic stuff to start with, plus you get a pen and a certificate. Good place to start. This program here, the Universe Sampler, you have a telescope, you have just visual stuff that gives you, this is what's going on, this is things you can see, and then they have a list of naked eye objects, and I'll be honest with you, I looked at that list of naked eye objects. If you pass that one, you're good, because there's a bunch of stuff on there that
Got good eyes.
yeah, you have good eyes, and you're not in downtown Chattanooga. You might see some of those objects, Cloudland Canyon, Fall Creek Falls, somewhere like that, but around close to Chattanooga, you will see them. Of course, the people that wrote it were in Texas, where they do have some good skies, but it's a good program. This is a good program for beginners because you go through all the northern constellations, and all they want you to do is naked eye sketch what you're seeing. The constellations. So they want you to sketch out the main stars in the constellation, but not just in the constellation, in the boundaries of the astronomical association. What they say, this is the boundary of Ursa Major, or this is the boundary of Leo. So I think Matt's working on that one. The meteor is basically going out and looking for meteors and logging your hours and what you see. Asterism, that's got the asterism with a coat hanger on it. That's what that's all about. So these are all just, you have either, a lot of it is naked eye, and then some of it you'll have to use a binocular. This is a new program they've done in the past few years that alternate constellations. So the Big Dipper, everybody knows what the Big Dipper is, and that's what they're doing with this. Is saying, okay, the Big Dipper could be an alternate constellation, not part of Ursa Major, but it could be a constellation because it's big enough. It could be. The sickle of Leo is what they have on the pen, and so that could be a constellation. Now you go south. the neatest one I ever saw was years ago when Venus was occulted by the moon, and Venus reappeared on the dark side of the moon. And it's like there's nothing there, and then all of a sudden, just you see this bright Venus just pop out behind the moon. Of course, Mars, Jupiter, comets, asteroids, and then the toes. This one is at certain times in the orbit between Earth and Jupiter, we go through and the moons will line up to the point that they will eclipse or occult themselves. So not only is you're not looking at the moons to Jupiter, now you're looking at the moons occulting or eclipsing themselves. That will be, I think that's going to be I think it's 2027 before that happens again. So that is something to look at. It's 2027 is the next time.
And you said, so are there booklets for Jupiter or Mars too, just like they have?
Just, there may not be books, no.
Oh,
But you can go to the website and there's, when they give you the list of what they want you to look at, it's all laid out. And then they tell you what you have to do, whether they want you to sketch it or just describe it or what. So it's all laid out in that, the program, in the rules and all. And then down at the bottom, they give you the list of everything that you did look at.
I've seen a
I
couple
can show you some of it, but not.
things on Mars and Jupiter and Saturn that are maps and stuff. Are they worth purchasing for something like that, or?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Probably not.
All right.
Not for what, I don't think. I don't know for sure. Asteroids, no. Okay, so next would be, we go into deep sky. The Messier program, the Caldwell program. That one is, there's a silver and a gold. He did, what was his name, Bobby?
What's that?
The British
Patrick
dude.
Moore.
I'm sorry.
Who?
Patrick Moore.
Patrick Moore. Patrick Caldwell Moore. He was an amateur astronomer in the UK, and he wrote tons of books, and he was knighted. And one night he was thinking about, okay, there's the Messier objects, but there's a whole bunch of other bright objects, deep sky objects out there that Messier didn't see, but they're worth looking at. So he wrote down a bunch of stuff that he thought were worthy of being something to look at. Sent to Sky and Telescope. Sky and Telescope published it. Somebody in the Astronomical League looked at it, saw it, and said, hey, let's make a Caldwell pin. So there's a silver and a gold. There's a bunch of his objects that are in the southern hemisphere. You may never get the gold pin, but you can get the silver pin. Unless you get the gold pin if you go to the southern hemisphere and see those objects.
You
The
can
ones,
Oh,
the ones that you can see is the Omega Centauri. There's,
yeah.
and we tried to find that at Cloudland Canyon tonight, but it's already gone, so it'll be next year before we can get those.
You can
You-
see, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You can see Patrick Moore's TV shows. They're now all on YouTube. So
Yeah, he was
And
one
so
of the
you can-
longest running. I forget now. He got something over there because he was the longest running individual that did the same program over and over for so
BBC.
many years. Used to, when you got your certificate, he personally signed
Really?
and wrote you and the coordinator flew to England every year and took all the stuff over there, and he would sign everything, and then she'd bring it back and send it out. Well, he passed away here a few years ago, so that doesn't happen
he
now.
created the Summer Triangle in 1952 or something.
Okay, urban observing program. If you're in town, Harold can't do this because Harold Sky, you guys that are over in the valley that have good skies, that you can't even do this program because you can see the Milky Way. And if you're in my house and I may end up with a good night and I can see the Milky Way, I can't even log anything on that night. You have to be in a position where you cannot see the Milky Way. So you have to be in downtown or somewhere where the light pollution is bad enough, or the skies are bad enough, that basically you have to use go-to telescope to find them. But they did this mainly for people that are in urban environments, so you can do it from your house and not have to go anywhere. Double stars, bright nebulas, two in view. Basically, 81, 82 is one of the two in the view. The double cluster, there's all kinds. This list is just anything that you can take a normal telescope, not a great big one, or not a long focal length, and you can see two objects in the same view at the same time. Globular clusters, that the one that you could work on right now, planetary nebulas, open clusters, nova, programs that take special equipment. Okay. That program right there, you don't use the telescope. This is way back before Galileo. So you're creating like an astrolabe. I forget all the different names of the things that Tycho Brahe used before Kepler. He did all the observations, and Kepler ended up with his observations, which the story goes they think that Kepler killed him, poisoned him.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they were going to exhume his body to test to see.
No way.
They were. History.
Probably silver poisoning from his nose.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, people
Let's
died
say-
of so much toxins back then.
Lead
He
poisoning.
was a
Right.
big partier. They said there's also a rumor that his bladder burst because he didn't want to leave the party to go.
It's possible. It
Anyway,
is around the possibility.
Good Danish.
so anyway, that one is pretty deep because you're building these old things and observing with them. And if you read the science behind an astrolabe, they don't even know when the astrolabe was actually invented or who invented it, but it's amazing how accurate one is when they're making
Once
it.
you figure it
And
out.
what you can figure out with it, and what you can do with it, including surveying. An anonymous. I had to look at that for a minute because if you look at the sun, same time every day in the same place, that's what you get. So what you're doing there is logging the sun every day and logging where it is, and that's the chart you will get, is something that looks like that.
Can you pronounce it?
Some people like it, some people don't. There's all kinds of different things you can do there. There's math is involved in this for calculating where the sun is. The sunspotter, you have to have a white light filter for your telescope, and all you're doing is just logging sunspots. Hydrogen alpha, of course, you have to have a hydrogen alpha scope to do that. Spectroscopy, I think Ned, I know Patrick Sick bought the stuff to do that with. I don't know if they've done anything.
I did it.
Radio astronomy, Kevin,
Yes.
radio astronomy, silver and gold.
What have you got to do for them?
Look at the program. It tells you what to do. Foundations of imaging. If you're wanting to get in astrophotography, that would be a good one to start with because they start with basics. Start here. This is what you do,
Okay.
and work your way through. That's a brand new program. I think that's only like maybe 2 years old, if even that long. Same thing with the radio astronomy. It's just a couple of years old. Target NEO, near Earth objects. You'll have to get on and look at that because they give you objects to look at and record where they are. So it's almost like citizen science. So that's looking for the big asteroids, like one that just passed us 2 weeks ago. I think size of a school bus was a quarter of the distance between us and the moon. advanced programs. Herschel 400, 400 of Herschel's bright objects. Herschel 2 is 400 more of Herschel's bright objects. Flat galaxy is exactly what it is. 4565, M, what, 182, 81, I think would be a flat.
Sombrero.
Yeah, Sombrero would be one in 104. The Dark Nebulas. Okay, E. Bernard. Anybody know what his name is? Most all those objects. In fact, about 98% of the objects that are in that were found by and logged by E. Bernard. Our local galaxy group and neighborhood, again, just looking at galaxies that are in our local group. Mole stars are, these are all, this one is, I have that manual, that's pretty advanced, and a lot of it has to be imaged because it is, they're groups, but they're very, very tight, small groups. And probably a lot of
So
them.
is ARP for old people? No, I'm just kidding. That's
No,
AARP.
that's a guy,
Oh, it is?
yeah.
Okay.
So they were peculiar galaxies, and there's just like the hockey puck, our hockey stick galaxy that we just looked at. The galaxy, the thin galaxy that had the crook on the end,
Mm-hmm.
I think is an art object because it's got that peculiar end on it.
Hmm.
So he saw things in galaxies and said, you know, this is not normal, not the normal way that you would see a
Right.
galaxy. So he logged all those
Hmm.
and made an art catalog. And there's northern and southern objects in his catalog. Once you go so far in the
Wow.
programs, you can get Master Observing Awards. So there's, well, I'll not go into detail, but these two are the ones to begin with are, if you're a binocular observer, if you do all of the binocular programs, then you qualify as a binocular master observer, and you can get the pin and the certificate for that. Excuse me. These are, you start with these two, and you do some of the programs we were just talking about. Once you get those, then you qualify as a master observer or an observer, and you get an award and a pin. Once you go on past that, you can go all the way up to platinum. So depending on what level and what they require, the more programs you do, the higher you can go up into the master observing programs. Master imaging programs. Dennis, if you're still on, you and Matt need to look at this for sure, because you could do a lot of
Master.
you can be a master. Or you could work on it, but you have to do some of the observing programs to be able to qualify with imaging, and then you've got to look at what's involved. Herschel program. So they said there are people that had done a lot of the programs, and they did Herschel 400 and then Herschel 2. Well, we want more. We want to look at more objects. So they said, do a Herschel 3, do a Herschel 4, and the coordinator looked at it and said, we've got to do like a Herschel 8 before we get all the 2,000, almost 3,000 objects. So what they did is they said, okay, we'll start the Herschel Society. And as you progress through, if you do Herschel 400, do Herschel 200, do the Herschel Society Silver Certificate, 400 more objects, so 1,200 all. And then you get the Herschel Society Gold Certificate once you find all 2,379 objects, send it in, and you get, and there are actually people that have done that. There are actually people that have gone past that even. And the coordinator said in one of his things that there are people asking to go on to more of the NGC objects, to go past the first group that Herschel did. This is something we should have done a long time ago. The club. The outreach award. Some of us have been doing star parties for a number of years in the club. We could have been all the way to master outreach, but we have neglected to do that. This came at a very timely, this came from UPS today.
Or last week, you just had to go
No,
across the neighborhood to get it.
I can show you the text that came from my wife when it showed up. There's my outreach pin. So it just came in the mail today, and here's the certificate in here. So all you do on this, not that one. All you do on this to qualify is you just log your hours that you're at.
I'm just thinking about myself.
There it is. All it is it's an Excel sheet that you download, and you just keep your hours. And once you pass 10 hours, you send the sheet in, and you give a description. So I started with, what was our first one? Was it Cloudland Canyon and then the battlefield? I went from this year and already have my first pen. I'm working on the second one. And if we had logged all the stuff we did at Harrison Bay and Cloudland Canyon and the battlefield and everything, there's about 10 of us or more that we would be masters already. And there's another pen, once you get master, there's another pen that goes for the master. And we just haven't done it. And I thought about doing that years ago, and I never said any more about it. And I should have, and I'll be kicked for not doing it. Mentor award. You cannot nominate yourself. Don't care how much you mentor, you cannot nominate yourself. If someone is mentoring you and you feel that they deserve this, go on the website and look at the qualifications that it takes to be a mentor. If you think that person has mentored you, you do exactly what that tells you to do. You send in your nomination, and if they qualify, they'll get a certificate. They don't have a button for it, which they really ought to have,
Yeah.
but they don't have one, but you can do that. Dark Sky Advocate, if you're into that and you do it, get online, look at what it takes. You can get a award certificate for that in a pen. Library telescopes, get online, look at that. That's basically getting the little, I think they work with Orion on getting the Orion Star Blaster telescopes. And you rework those telescopes to try to keep people from fiddling with them. And you go to the library, you donate it to the library, you train the library people on this is the way you use the telescope, and then you work with them with star parties at the library, and you also maintain that telescope for them. So if anything, if it comes back in and it's messed up, you need to go back and help fix it. But there are clubs that, I saw a thing in Sky and Telescope a few years ago. There's a club up around Boston. They had a whole room of the telescopes, and they were modifying them and taking them out to the libraries around Boston. Other special awards. We talked about these, the 2017 Eclipse and the Planetary Transit. Some of you have the Venus. George has the Venus Transit, which you guys were able to see it. I was at Hilton Head in the rain.
Tell you what, it was more than just an observing though. You had to
Yes.
you had to time it, and then using the formulas they gave, you had to actually calculate the distance to the sun.
Really?
Which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
But that was a neat one.
How far was the sun then?
Well, it's a lot closer than they think it is.
They are time limits though, so you have a certain, like the Galaxy Challenge, you have a certain period of time after the eclipse or after the transit that you have to turn all your stuff in. And that's why it's too late for the rest of us, because we saw, a bunch of us saw the 2017 eclipse, have pictures of it
Yeah.
and everything, but we can't get the pin anymore because it's timed out on us. The observing challenges, these will continue to come up, and I think the Astronomical League now, because they're look like they're being very popular, they're going to continue to do those on and on. Personally, I think they should have done a Galaxy 2 right at the end of the first one. There should have been more galaxies on there, because you were right when we got into M87. That's right in the middle of the Virgo cluster. There's galaxies all around that you have to look to find it.
Well, one on the list was in the Milky Way.
Yeah.
I forget which one that is, but I tried to sit and pointed my telescope and go to it, and it pointed right at my observatory. So
Yeah, there's one.
it's right.
Is that Bernard?
Yes.
I think that Bernard.
Yes.
Oh man, it's you'll never.
It's very low
We
here.
won't find it here, I don't think. The downloadable certificates, again, that's on their website. You can do that, fill it out if you saw the eclipse or if you saw the conjunction. I need to say this, if you do a Messier marathon, I keep telling you, Matt, this is not a Messier marathon. Messier marathon, there's a certain period of time right around March, the end of March,
Right.
that if you start right at sundown, you can go all night and you can find almost, if you're lucky, you can find, I don't know if it's all of them, the 110.
Theoretically.
Theoretically, you can find all of them before sunrise. But you don't have time to, all you can do is say, I saw it, log it, and go on. Or you're not gonna walk through. They do not want you to do the Messier program as a marathon. And it states that in the rules because they want you to look at that object, they want you to sketch it or log it, they want you to tell about it. And if you're doing a marathon, you can't do that. But they will give you a certificate if you complete a marathon, they will give you a certificate for it. If you do the Herschel Hustle, which we've never heard about, but there's been articles about it. There was one night that Herschel did a sweep that there was like 80-something objects he found in that one night. And we've already passed the time toward the end of March is a good time for it. You can do it visual or imaging. You can wait and take your telescope and set it and let the sky drift through and find the objects like he did, because what he did, he let the sky drift, and he moved the telescope up and down for 2 degrees and timed it, and then as the object came through, he logged it, and because he was timing it, he knew what the right ascension was. So the Herschel Hustle is looking at that part of the sky and logging all those objects, and you can do it in the night. If you do that, they'll give you a Herschel Hustle certificate.
What size telescope was Herschel using? That's John Herschel you're talking about.
No.
Wait.
No, we.
No.
Yeah.
So,
Go on, look up Herschel Hustle,
I never heard of it.
and there's a guy that has done a website. He's one of the editors contributing editors at Sky Telescopes.
So it was a
And
7-inch
he has a whole list of these are the objects.
I know, but the size telescope he was using.
He was using
7-inch,
the
6
20 foot,
Hmm?
the 20 foot, I think.
Oh my.
Focal length 20.
Focal length,
Yeah.
Might have been the 40 inch.
the one that was on the bin. Yeah. But anyway, there's also NASA special awards. They did one for the Apollo 50th anniversary, and they're fairly simple. They have one going right now for the James Webb Telescope, and basically, they want you to do the one star that is supposed to be the first star that I guess they released pictures of this week. And they want you to photograph that or sketch it and do at the star party, say, hey, this is the star that they're going to photograph first, and send that stuff in. They'll send you a certificate for it. Okay, citizen science. Some people, they want to contribute to science. They don't want to just do pretty pictures. They want to do variable stars. There's all kinds of different things you can do in citizen science. Well, AL also does a thing with citizen science. So you have level 1. And this one is sort of funny because they basically, they want your computer. That's all they want. They want you to allow them to log into your computer when you're not using it and download programs that are going to calculate or going to do different things. And basically you're just, okay, here's my computer, I'm not using it now, I'm at work or I'm asleep, you can use it. And so they'll just log in and do it. And then when you come back, they're off of it, they're gone. That's all they want. They just need computers. Level 2 is things that you're not doing direct observation, but you're doing things like looking at pictures online that they have taken with, say, Hubble or some of these satellites. And apparently there are some things that computers can do to pick out, and there's some things that you have to do by human eye that the computer can't tell, is that a star or is that a fuzzy star or is that a galaxy? But the human eye can pick out those differences. There's one that I saw that all the lunar orbiters now, they're sending back pictures of craters that are a few feet in diameter. And they say that the computer can't tell if this is a rock or if it's a crater. All it can see is something roundish and has a shadow on it, but the human eye can look at it and say, okay, that is shadow in a crater. The computer can't tell, so they're wanting you to look at these pictures from the moon and pick out the craters and note the craters and send that information in. And they say as you send that information in, they will be able to better program the computer to pick out these objects, but also in the process, you're telling them this is a crater so they can log it.
So if you haven't dealt with enough captions, which one of these pictures has a bus in it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of different things like that. There's the Galaxy Zoo, and that was one where you're looking at all these pictures from Hubble that have stars and galaxies, and there's just hundreds and hundreds of those, and you're going through that picture trying to pick out that's a galaxy, that's a star, that's a star. So there's all kinds of different things. If you want to get into that, that's fine. And the third level is direct observation. This is what Ned Smith is doing because he does the asteroid occultation. So if an asteroid goes in front of a star, I was talking to at Cloudland Canyon the other night, and a group that he was involved with did a timing on an asteroid that I think he said was occulting a star, and they actually found out that the asteroid had something orbiting around it. So it was one of the first things they ever found. So they, that was sort of he was, said that was neat. But there's, if you're interested, you can go to that link, and they have a whole bunch of links here of different things that you can get involved with. Even the variable star observers, there's a NOVA program. Variable stars, if you want to get into that, there's all kinds of things you can do. So now that you see what the programs are, I hope that next time it's clear. You won't be sitting there thinking, what can I go out and view? You can say, hey, I'm going to go out, I'm going to put some of the log, I'm going to log some more globular clusters, and I'm going to, there's a bunch of stuff out there. And if you're worried about sketching, I can show you sketches. I'll not let you read the manual because I thought my writing was bad until I saw some of E. Bernard's notes. He had an excuse though because he was using a candle or a gas light. I was using a flashlight. You do not have to be an artist. Do not have to be an artist. All you have to do is look and give what you're seeing. I'm telling you, when you get into some of these open clusters, they are a pain, and there are just hundreds of open clusters out there. The hard part with them is, in some cases, the reason I started doing this with a telescope go-to and taking pictures is, I think I said this in the star hopping, there are some open clusters out there that you call those 4 stars an open cluster. That's an open cluster, really? And the problem is it's in Cassiopeia, so it's our Cygnus, and it's in the middle of the Milky Way. So you have some little bright stars here with a whole bunch of stars around it, and they're saying this is the cluster. Disregard those stars behind it. It was very difficult because finding a picture, okay, what am I looking for? What is NGC 122? I don't know what it's looking like. And if you're trying to star hop to it, you have to know what it looks like to know when you get there that that's what I'm looking at. So I finally gave up and said, okay, go to it. Camera goes to it, centers on it, says, there it is. And then you can annotate it, and it says, there it is. I know what it is, so I know what the cluster is, and then I sketch what I see on the screen. Much easier than doing what Chris is doing. So I hope this has been entertaining, interesting, inspiring, Chris. I hope so.
One of the things I have done when I'm bored and go out, and all of us have got
Oh,